This floor is nasty. And if you're looking at this video, you've probably Google searched, how do I repair water damage and mold damage in my subfloor while you're doing your bathroom renovation? Hi, my name is Jeff from Home Renovision DIY, and I'm going to show you in this video how to restore this and make it strong, get rid of the squeaks, and help to seal up the mold and remediate this problem so it's going to look brand new when you're finished. So if you're a DIYer and you're renovating your bathroom, chances are you've run into this problem. Your bathroom is getting renovated because it's so old that things are starting to fall apart. And what happens inevitably is the water that comes down the shower wall escapes the shower area, runs down the edge of the tub, and that little bit of silicone that people use to try to keep things sealed up has failed, and the water's getting in underneath all the flooring and is rotting out your subfloor. Now you can see in this particular situation, we knew we had this problem when we arrived, because the hardwood is actually discolored here as well. And that was a sure sign that water's been getting underneath the subfloor and causing all the mold to grow and grow up through this wood. Whenever you see staining like this and cracking in your joints, you know you're in for a treat. So be prepared and don't be worried, because this is not a scary thing to fix. What you need to do, first of all, is understand that any kind of mold situation that's less than 15 square feet, generally speaking, isn't what they would consider to be a really hazardous environment. It's a little nasty, it's a little ugly to work with, but if you expose it like we did and then let it dry out overnight, once it's dry the next day, it's actually quite safe to work with and it's not so unpleasant. In order to get started to replace this, what we want to do is identify, first of all, what's the strong part of the wood and where's it soft. So you can see that from yesterday, our demolition, we have part of the laminate here, because remember, plywood is layers of grained plywood in opposite directions glued together. And this is only 1/2 inch, so it's already quite thin to begin with. But here the top layer was just disintegrating, and just coming right off with the hammer with no effort. We know there's no strength in that wood, and we got to get rid of it. But how much do you get rid of? Do you cut out the whole sheet and reinstall the whole sheet? That's a possibility, because in a lot of cases, you could just go from joint to joint, cut out the whole sheet. Most bathrooms are about 5 feet wide, and you bought one sheet of plywood, you could just cut it out and reinstall and you're done. But in our situation, because we're going from what was here to something that's going to get tile, we need to add a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood, because we have 1/2 inch now. We're going to go to 1 1/4, which is standard. So since we're adding so much plywood, we're going to show you just how to cut open the floor and patch this to give it the structural strength that it's going to need so that you can make this a quick, easy job. So what we want to do is just take our claw and just check for what I call structural integrity. If you're taking the claw and you're giving it a good shot, and it's just making a dent, it's actually dry and it's solid, right? Even over here where that laminate is gone, it's nice and dry. So although it looked like a big rotten mess, most of what you see here is just wet floor that got moldy, and the actual strength of the floor is still intact. So realize that when you're going to repair something like this, maybe it's not necessary to cut it all out. Maybe you just need to reinforce it. So the first thing you want to do before you identify if you're going to cut this out or if you're just going to laminate over top and stain seal is identify your joists. You need to know how this floor is built. So we have a joist running right underneath this wall and right underneath this plate. This little edge. We have another one running here. Okay, so once you mark it, take a look down and you'll see here we have just nails. Common nails. What happens is when you put wood in between the two floor joists and the weight goes down, it's an upward force where the nails are. And so as over time, every time you take a step, you're pushing down and lifting up. And then the squeaks on the floor, right there, are the sound of the wood rubbing up and down on a nail that's still in position, that's been slightly lifted out of the joist. And this is going to happen whenever you've got wood that gets wet. Wet wood expands, and then that helps to lift the nail heads. So what we want to do now is we want to tighten all this down before we go any further. Now, I've got water lines under here as well, so just to help reduce the scope of work and to reduce my risk, if I find that this is strong enough and I'm able to put the new floor on top of this, then that's what I'm going to do. And here's the secret weapon. Kill spray. This is a shellac aerosol spray. And what this does, give it a good mix, and you can just spray the area that was black, where the water damage was, and you're going to do two things. You're going to make it not so ugly, but you're going to seal up any mold spores that are here. Remember, mold is naturally occurring in wood. So every piece of lumber that's in your house has mold in it. What we do to manage mold in homes is we make sure that our moisture content is low enough that the mold won't grow, and we make sure that we separate anything that's mold from water by plastic. What this does is this is going to seal up the mold with a shellac-based product so that if ever get water underneath here again, it's not going to come directly in contact with that. And while we're working, we're not going to be kicking up any spores into the atmosphere and breathing it in. Just a note, one of these cans does 15 square feet. Wow, there we go. It's not that tricky. Now all we have to do is screw down the existing subfloor before we put our next layer on. So here's my joist line. Now it's important when you're screwing your joist lines down, have an idea. Look underneath your tub, check the area first, make sure you don't have any wiring, anything around. Make sure you don't have drain lines or water lines passing through the joist. And in this case, our water supply is just running straight across over to the other side of the room, about 5 inches down. So we're not worried about it. Now, if you don't have an open floor, what you can do, and in most cases around the tub area is where you're going to have your water damage, and there will be some subfloor cut out. You can cut a larger area of the subfloor out around the drain area. Remember, most tubs hold the weight of the tub at the skirt and at the feet that go near the back or on the 2x4 on the wall. So having a large area around the drain isn't going to be a concern to you. You can always stick your camera down there and take a quick picture. So we are using an actual flooring screw. Now listen, don't just go into that little jar you have in your workshop and grab whatever screws are handy. There's a reason we use what we use. This screw has got a coarse thread from about 1/2 inch to 3/4 down, but the top of the shaft is smooth, and the screw head itself is made like a bit of a bowl. And the idea here is when you drill this in, you want the screw to be attached to the framing underneath with the threads, and you want the smooth shaft in your subfloor material. That way, if there's any deflection, it's not rubbing up and down against the threads, and it's going to be pulled nice and tight with this big fat head. This is designed and coated to keep your floor from squeaking. If you use something else, you're going to be disappointed with the result. Now, while I'm doing my water repair, I'm going to also screw down the rest of the subfloor, just so that I don't hear any squeaks. This is a great time to take the construction to the next level. Time for the squeak test. Yeah, perfect. Now when you're going to cut your plywood, I suggest having one of these around. I think every homeowner should have one of these. It's a handy, handy tool. It can measure and cut all your sheet goods so easily. Now, our space is 60 inch, but we have a door jamb and a couple other things. So instead of cutting at 36, which leaves 5 feet, which is 60 inch, we're going to cut this a little bit short at 37 inches. Or 59 on this side. We'll just put this up here, and it's self-squaring. All right, there we go. Now it's measured and then cut. Setting your plywood up on a 2x4 in the driveway is a great way to do cutting. Just sit down, and it lifts this off the ground and keeps everything nice and steady so you aren't going to have an accident. Now, since we're going to be installing tile, we need to have 1 1/4 inches worth of plywood. So the easiest fix for us is just to cut some 3/4 inch plywood and then laminate it on top with some more of those great flooring screws. But if you're going to go with something like vinyl tile or a sheet good, like a sheet vinyl, then what you're going to want to do is cut out that weak spot, put in a couple of 2x4s with some construction screws, and use adhesive. glue and screw it all together and cut a new piece of plywood and fit it into place. Now don't worry about how perfect the cut is. As long as you can screw it into the frame that you build, you're going to be just fine. Now remember, when you're going to put your new subfloor down, if it's okay if it's a little bit shorter than the size of the room, because you're going to be installing a flooring and then baseboard trim, and we don't need direct load transfer from the edge of a piece of plywood right into a floor joist. So don't go a little crazy here. This is not finished carpentry. We're just installing subfloor. So cut it, stick it into place, and then it should just fall right into where you need it. From here, wiggle it around to where you want it. And at this point, we're just going to add some construction adhesive to help bond the old floor with the new subfloor so that this isn't going to be moving around either. Because I don't want to stick a bunch of ugly, big fat screws in this hardwood. So this is the construction adhesive of choice for me and a whole lot of other guys out there. Available in all your building stores. And basically all we do here is, I've got a cutter on my caulking gun. Love having convenient tools. And listen, construction adhesives and silicones, they all need to be pierced. And that little device there is what that is. Just slide it in. Use it liberally, but remember, when you're working with PL Premium indoors, this stuff, if you get it on someone's finished flooring or on your shoes and it dries before you find it and clean it off with like a Varsol product, it will not be able to be removed. There is nothing on this planet that can take PL Premium off of a finished floor. So, word of warning, if you're going to use it, put something in the way and don't walk over it until it is completely dry. Don't risk making a mess anywhere. Once you have your adhesive in place, kick your floor back where it goes, grab your flooring screw, and the idea here is you want to screw the perimeter of your floor. And remember, these thick threads here, you're going to have a piece of subfloor here and a piece here, and they're small and large for a reason, because they pull everything together. It's what we call a laminating screw. And you want to put these on the perimeter when you're going to tile, about every 3 inches. Some situations, if you use too many fasteners, you weaken it. When you're laminating plywood together, you're not going to weaken it by using too many. So if you're a little concerned that the floor underneath is a little soft, or you just got one stubborn squeak that you can't get rid of, go ahead and keep screwing it until the noise is gone. That's how you screw around the perimeter. For the body of the sheet good, every 6 to 8 inches on square is more than plenty. And remember, since you already screwed the first sheet down to the joist, you don't have to mark the joist lines and screw to the joist here. Just get this done and laminate the sheets together. This is just a quick, easy way to make it from 4-ply and 6-ply to a 10-ply sheet of plywood. That's about as strong as anything you're ever going to need. Perfect. Never going to have another squeak again. So that's pretty much everything you need to know to repair your subfloor from water damage and mold damage. Remember, just because it's ugly doesn't mean it won't work. So if you follow those steps, you'll seal up your mold and you'll eliminate it from being a problem in the future, and you can get rid of your squeaks and have a beautiful project moving forward. So don't panic if you see this kind of mess. Just address it the way we showed you in this video, and you can renovate the rest of your space without any worries. Click the video to see how this project turned out.